future is now.
Broadcasting from the Queen City, breaking down business, leadership, community, and family. Here's your host, the president and CEO of the Northern Cincinnati Foundation, Erin Satzker.
The future is now.
Well, this is such an amazing day.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be with such a bright light such as yourself. We are with
Thank you.
State Representative Sara Carruthers today. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Well, sure. I am Sara Carruthers. I am a state representative, have been. This is I've been there since 2018-19. And it feels like the 1900s these days.
It does, doesn't it?
It really does. The longer you go, the older you feel. I was born in Cincinnati, raised in Hamilton, but have a foot in both Cincinnati and Hamilton through and through. However, I have two children, twins, boy and girl, 16-year-olds. They just got their temps yesterday, so I feel a little nearer to God. I love what I do. I love where I'm from. I'm very passionate about what I do. And
I love that. Passion to me is so important. And I do see that in you. You know, you meet somebody and you get a feeling, and I just love that you are passionate about community, Hamilton, Cincinnati, just the whole region. So I want to dive into you, your background, your story on just like you grew up then in Hamilton, it sounds like.
I did.
Can you tell me about that? Like, what was your upbringing like? And
I have a very odd upbringing.
Yes,
I do.
Please tell. Yes.
I have a mother who was born and raised in Lindenwold in Hamilton. I would say the wrong side of the tracks, but it really wasn't. Lindenwold was a great place to grow up, and it's becoming an even better place now, but certainly not wealthy. She used to talk about during the war her cardboard shoes, because they had cardboard soles.
Wow.
And I grew up going to my grandma's house in Lindenwold on Weller Avenue. And my grandma taught me how to bake. Aww. And we always baked cookies for the old maids that lived down the alley. And I think the old maids were actually my age, if you really want to know the truth. It was sort of sad, but I loved those ladies, and they were a lot of fun. And
I'm sure they loved you too.
I don't know, probably.
Yeah.
They liked the cookies.
Oh, heck yeah.
And we did a lot of things like that. My grandma always babysat me when my parents would go out. My father's side of the family lived in Glendale, Ohio.
Okay, very familiar. Love Glendale.
Yes, I love Glendale too. And they had Hetherington kennels and Jersey cows, and they sold their milk to Borden. So Elsie and Beauregard were their cows.
Really?
So I grew up with all sorts of animals and loved that. I showed dogs, showed wire-hair fox terriers, top in the nation.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Yeah.
That is no easy feat.
No, ton of gold cows.
Dogs. Yeah.
And I still to this day, I love cows. I will pull over the car to watch cows. My kids laugh at me, but they do the same thing.
Honestly,
they are really
cool.
fascinated with cows.
Cool.
Just a really side story, but kind of fun. You remember Marge Schott?
Oh,
course.
yes, definitely.
Well, Marge had cows.
I did not know this.
Yeah. And Marge had cows, and she had this beautiful big window at her house.
Wow.
And I remember being there one day, and I said, I was just standing in front of this window watching the cows, and she said, they're pretty beautiful, aren't they, kid? And I said, God, I just love to watch them. And she said, don't you? And we just stood there together watching her cows. It was hilarious. But I think the only other person that probably loves them as much as I do was Marge. Yeah, she was a treasure in so many ways. Probably not to many people, but she was good to me. So
good.
But she did have great cows. And so I grew up with that. And I have both sides. That side of the family had money. And so I grew up appreciating everything because
I love that you had a foot in both doors.
It
You saw
balanced me.
So can you tell me about the Cincinnati question here? Where did you go to high school?
Well, I went to it's all Hamilton. I went to a junior high school that was Harding Junior High, since torn down.
Yes, very familiar.
It was just, me, the cockroaches, the rats, the mice, and my friends. And I loved Harding. I loved it so much. And we really bonded. And then I went to Taft High School in Hamilton.
Yes.
And again, no longer it's Hamilton High. A lot of my friends went to Garfield, so we had that. I was a theater geek and a music geek. And then I went to Miami. I didn't graduate from Miami. I left Miami to go down to Cincinnati and work for PM Magazine.
Really?
Yeah.
So how long? That's pretty cool. So how long were you, I guess, at Miami?
3 years.
Okay. Oh my goodness. And you just decided no thanks.
I tell you what, I worked, I was working in Cincinnati and I was driving back and forth and taking classes at what was Peck Tech, but now is Miami Hamilton. And I was in a class one day and I was so exhausted, and I would get home just, I'd drive down to Cincinnati early in the morning and I would get home, eat something, and go right to class in the evening. The first 3 years I lived up there, but then I was doing both. And I had one professor, and he's not there anymore, so I don't mind saying it, and I can't remember his name at this point, who wanted me to explain what I did in a day. And I, at that point, was working in TV traffic, which, as you probably know, was not like telling where the cars are. It actually is logging commercials. I don't even know that they do much of that anymore. It's probably all done by computer. But at that point, it was all, you couldn't put two car commercials next to each other. I mean, it was mind-boggling. It was like Tetris.
Right.
And
it does sound like Tetris now. I'm thinking
it was. It was. I mean, I look at TV now and I'm like, this would never happen back in the day. But now it doesn't matter. So I was doing all of that, and he wanted me to explain what my job was. Oh, and you also, and I was not a mathematician, but you had to figure out, 2 15-second spots and two.
Oh, yeah.
It was mind-boggling, but I was really good at it because I was so fixated on doing it correctly. And I got there, and he wanted me to explain to the class what I did during a day at work. And I thought, I'm not going to explain this to people. That means they're going to take my job. Mm-hmm. And I'm already doing it and getting paid pretty well. That's crazy. And I came home that night and I said to my mom, they wanted me to explain today what I did. And this was the feeling, I thought. And she went, yeah, I get that. Because she worked all her life. She worked from 16 on. I take that back. She worked from junior high on. Okay. Walked across the bridge. She went to Harding also. Only it wasn't a Harding then. Walked across the bridge and worked at Champion. So she got it.
Worked at Champion. Look at that history.
And walked all the way. I mean, worked her way up to executive secretary. She was one of the top secretaries. And she was like, I see what you're saying. And I said, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. This is a waste of your money. This is a waste of my time. Mm-hmm. I realize I probably need a degree, but do I?
Yeah.
I'm working. I didn't go anymore, and just kept working and doing the same thing she did. I mean, I think
you have to have the grit and determination to. Yeah. And you saw that you just knew your path. It sounds.
And I loved what I did.
Yes.
I mean, I loved what I did. And I'm not bashing college. I really think there's so many jobs that you need to have a college degree and you need the schooling. But there are also jobs that if you know what you're doing and you work there long enough. And it used to be really true in the day. If you just showed up, especially in radio, if you just showed up and did the work, man, you climbed.
Absolutely. And I think you learn through action, right? You're like, okay, well.
And you're devoted.
Right. And you make mistakes in those early 20-year-old years. Oh, no, I wasn't supposed to do that or do this. And now I'm having to redo this whole project, whatever it is. Sara, tell me, do your kids, do they want to go to college? What do they want to do at 16?
They love school. They go to Baden in Hamilton. Okay. They love school. They have loved school since the day they were born. And they do want to go to school. They want to go to college. My daughter is an artist, both music and art. Yeah, she's really, I think she's quite good. I don't have the gift of that. But she would like to be an art teacher, so she will have to go and study, and she knows that. She's looking at schools now, or I guess we're looking at schools now. She sort of has settled where she wants to be, but she still would like to look, just to be able to say she has looked. My son, and this is going to sound very weird, has wanted to be a mycologist since he was 5.
Really?
Yes. Now I know that
is this?
That's it.
What is this?
It's
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Well, nobody does.
Okay.
It's the study of mushrooms and fungus.
Oh, well, now's the time.
It is.
Now is the time.
It is such a blossoming, and especially with medical.
Right. There's so much medical data and research on the benefits.
He was telling me last night that there is also with cadavers now. There is something that with mushrooms and fungus that grows. I don't know. It's mind-boggling, but he is fixated on this, and he has been since he was 5. He picked up a book in a bookstore.
That is the craziest thing, and I love that though.
I do too.
He knew. I feel it's so rare to have that calling.
I do too.
I think I've just kind of haphazardly fallen into these things, and here I am. And but that's so cool that he has that passion, and I think it takes the passion, right?
It's great, and he comes home all the time. He walks around in parks, and he comes home he does service projects in metro parks. Really proud of him, and he loves it. And then he comes home with mushrooms, different mushrooms. He brought one home the other day, huge. That was one that, and I don't know what the name is, and I should at this point because I actually have memorized some of them, but that you can draw and paint on for my daughter to do art projects
that's
on.
So cool.
So and they're very close because they're twins. So they had their own language and everything else when they were little. And
so,
So where do you go for that?
No.
I don't know. I think originally he'll have to stay. He's looking around also, but I know that the top mycology area is in the Netherlands. But I think we can hold off on that. Yes. I think we can hold off on that.
You should definitely go study there, Mom. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're going to pass on that for a little while. I think he studies, we've looked a bit into it. Because he just told me that the other night, into biology and some things like that first, and then move into that realm.
To the specialty. That makes a lot of sense. My dad is an organic chemist, and
there you go.
So I have appreciation for the sciences, but I'm just that's not my brain.
Yeah.
My brain probably works similarly to yours.
Yes. No math.
Yes. Right. Yes. I'm out. So can I ask you then, I love this. I love hearing about your background, the cows growing up. It's so cool. So what was the pathway to being a state legislator? How did how was that born?
That was born out of my son.
Tough job.
You know what? I didn't appreciate how tough it was.
It's so tough.
That came out of my son.
Wow. Okay. So you have to tell that story.
Okay. And this is not to bash anyone.
Yeah.
Although it kind of does. We were Bethany School, where my children went in Glendale, always did
I am so familiar with that school. That's cool that you were.
It's a great school.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful school. I'm so pleased they went there. It was so diverse and such a great experience. And actually, that was part of my family. That's a whole other thing. One of my family members was a nun, and so
oh my goodness,
an Episcopal nun, and so that's
wow.
So I thought, oh, this is perfect, and the kids loved it. I could not have asked for better. Even the parents are still so close from that year. But we did a tour of the State House and the Supreme Court and COSI, a sleepover at COSI. Senator Coley and Carolyn Coley
yes, know them well.
would do this every year. And so we went up, and because I didn't work and was a stay-at-home mom, I always did the tours with them. A few
Which
other
is so good, by the way.
Oh, it was wonderful,
You know,
and I learned so much by doing
so
that.
much, and you're spending all this quality time,
right? And
I'm sorry, keep going.
No, it was great because honestly, there were a few parents, and we were so close. All the parents were close. We still text each other, and you got to the point where that kid was your kid also. Mm-hmm. You just. To this day, I mean, I can't wait to see how they grow up, Yeah. So, I was always on these trips. Well, I knew Bill and I knew Carolyn sort of because my dad and I had always been on executive committee together and central committee and things like that. But I had sort of dropped out of that because I had kids now.
Sure.
And
I mean, it happens.
It happens. And,
so many of us.
it was fine. But, and Daddy and I always had meals. We lived with my father. Mm-hmm. After my mother died, I rearranged my parents' house so that we could live with him and take care of him.
That's wonderful.
It was wonderful. It really was. And it was great for my kids. And so we always talked about events, local events, current events, politics.
Sure.
At the dinner table, we always sat down and ate. And they were the good age to do that. Now I try and do it at least once a week. But it's hard.
Right.
As they get older, it's tougher. But it was great when he was still alive to do this. And Daddy and I never treated them like little kids, like you can't say something in front of them. We talked about everything.
I think that's good. It helps them grow up and be independent and form an opinion, and that's okay.
Right. Not scare.
Right.
You don't want to scare them, but,
sure.
But, you talk about, oh, did you see this? Oh my gosh, and so we got up to the State House and we're touring, and my son raised his hand and said, well, Senator Coley, who's our state representative? Mm-hmm. And Bill said, well, where do you live? And he said, Hamilton. And Bill told him. And Rogue announced what he knew about the state representative that was in our district. And it wasn't flattering. Mm-mm. And everybody turned around and went, no, seriously, dude.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you know what? And I think it's okay to say that because I will say this. At that time, I was working for Speaker Boehner. And I worked for John for 7 years. And before that, I, worked for a PAC in DC or in the NRCC. And so I have a history there. And so I know
it wasn't a good reputation.
No, it's not. And it's not okay.
No,
and you need to have good representation of your community. And that's okay to call out.
Right.
And maybe he brought a challenge. Like, how did that come about? Because that's kind of cool if he sparked that. And it was such a need. It was like, who is going to fix this?
Well, and what was difficult was I knew we got home and the first thing out of my son's mouth at dinner was, Mom, I think you should run.
Amazing. I need to meet your son.
And I said, he's hilarious. And I said,
awesome.
oh, honey, you think your mom can do anything.
You're going to the Netherlands, kid.
And
that's amazing.
I said, you think your mom can do anything? Honey, that I'm your mom. I mean, come on. I like to be home and take care of you.
That?
And Daddy just kept eating and my daughter kept eating and ignoring him. And I ignored it. And about a week passed, maybe a week and a half, and he said it again. And I said, honey, and Daddy just looked up at me and said, he's not going to let it go. Mm-mm. And I said, well, I don't know why he's so serious about this. And Daddy looked at me and said, why don't you call some of our friends that you know, which we did know a lot of political people, and ask them what they think. Every single one said, why would you want to ruin your life like this?
Which is what I would have told you. So right? I'm glad you didn't call me.
And they were so right. But I mean, there are moments like Legislator of the Year that.
Yes.
I mean.
Well, first off, for our listeners, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
You have no idea what that means to me. I mean seriously, that's huge. That is just enormous to me.
Think about you. I mean, to me, the picture that you've painted, that you're in Columbus with your son, you're an amazing mother, very supportive.
Thank you.
And then he comes home and that's his takeaway. You know what? We need to be represented well. Mom, you would do so well at this. And then gave you the nod and really kept pushing you.
He did. And really they have been,
here you are.
Those kids have been, and I have to say, in all fairness, their classmates, both at Bethany and at Baden, have been so tremendous and so supportive.
I believe that.
And my daughter, I have taken a lot of slings and arrows on different votes, different things that I've done. And I got to tell you,
job.
They have just been amazing. These kids will go door to door with me.
Wow.
And
I have to
rock.
say that is a lost art. Going door to door. I mean, gosh, I spent so much time going door to door in my teens and in my 20s. Lots of time.
Yeah.
I really won't do it
hard.
anymore. I'm too tired.
It's hard. Well,
too tired.
You know what? You get a little older and it gets even worse.
I'm sure. It's just, and you know what? I do. I think about Legislator of the Year and what that means, and look at the work that you're doing that's important. And frankly, you're somebody that people can say, I'm so glad she took that initiative to represent us, because today, I have to say that I think, just from my experience on the Hill and in the 8th District for Congress back in Ohio, that can be a thankless and lonely position. And I'm so happy that you have supporters.
Our families suffer the worst. Our families suffer the worst. And they get to hear all the gripes and all the hate. And I think the hate, even with Boehner, was less than it is now. It is so horrible now. I've never seen anything like it.
I completely agree with you. I think it was a lot less than it is now. And I think, why would anyone do this? You have to believe in your country. You have to, your family has to be supportive, because it can be such a hard road to walk, I find. And so I really do commend you for that.
Well, thank you.
I just want to say I couldn't do it.
I tell you, I have to say the position that I was given this time of Health and Human Services finance sub-chair.
Tell me about that.
Oh my God. It was the most rewarding position I've ever had.
That sounds really great.
I was every single day, I knew a lot of people that had that position before and dreaded it. And said, well, I don't want to listen to this. I don't need to hear these people's stories. And I thought, that's just kind of shocking. I mean, and again, I'm not bashing anybody, but that's what
it's about.
That's what you're there for.
So do you think, because of your background, because it sounds like you come from from what I've read, a very philanthropic, community-based family. And so do you think, because your family loved giving back and being involved, that you also love to hear people's stories?
I think that's part of it. I think, as you and I talked earlier before we started speaking, I think the curiosity. I think I like to help solve people's problems. My daughter said last night, it was really funny. I was talking about a woman that had called me to have drinks because she was having problems at home. And she said, why do people do that with you? They've always done that. They call you to talk to you like you're a therapist. And I'm like, I don't know. They always have. I don't know, because I'm even keeled.
You listen.
I lose my temper a lot these days, but
well, I think that's probably justified given just the position and the stress.
I think so. But I only lose my temper if you go against somebody I care about. I'm I am definitely a mama bear and I'm a loyal person.
Mm-hmm.
And if you hurt somebody I care about, yeah, you're in trouble with me.
Right.
But I think this position too, it's really funny. And I've told people this, but this is the God's truth. I went through a great deal with healthcare with my parents,
Mm-hmm.
with other family members. And my father had a number of health issues, tons, as did my mother. And so I understand the healthcare industry. I understand hospitals, not just hospitals in Ohio, hospitals in Michigan. I understand what they go through in hospitals. I understand administrative. I understand the nurses. I understand home health care because I've had to wait for people if they can't show up. I learned how to do dialysis at home. I never had to do it, thank God.
That's super
But
impressive.
in case I could, because I wanted to be able to, they found out that what he needed was too strong to do at home. So I think, and all that we went through from the get-go, from my dad's cancer to his heart to everything, broken hips, everything that we went through. And my mom, I would wrap her legs 2 times a day because she had cellulitis on her legs. And the thing is, I can heal a wound like nobody's business.
I believe you.
Seriously.
I believe you.
So it's really funny, and not funny, but it's really interesting because you go through those times and you say, every time you pray and you think, God, why are you doing this? Why am I doing this? What I don't understand. And then one day I was sitting in committee and this person stood up to testify, to tell their story. And I thought, that's why.
Wow.
That's why I'm here, because I lived through that person's story. I get it. I see exactly what you're living through. I know you waited an hour for that person to show up to help you, right? And you can't wait an hour, because if you wait another hour, that person could die right there and you are helpless because you didn't train for that. I trained for things because I kind of got it. I had one nurse tell me, why didn't you go into nursing? I'm like, oh no. But I kind of got it. I kind of understand medicines because of it, but I don't want to have to. And that's why.
Right.
That is why God put me
on that committee.
Right there. And it was sort of like this light. I kid you not. It was like this light opened
like a
up.
Full circle moment.
It is. And I thought, well, damn, that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
And then
it feels good to have those where you think, oh my God, how did this happen?
I just about cried. And I looked at my aide, Andy, and I said, I know why I'm here. And he goes, well, you're listening. And I said, no, I'm serious. I know exactly why I'm here now. And, credit to my speaker. He placed people exactly where they should be. I don't know.
That's impressive.
What?
He's a good leader.
Excellent.
Yeah.
He's an excellent leader. He's taken more strife and slings and arrows than anybody should. But I'll tell you what, he knew where people should be.
I think leadership is a hard job.
Awful.
And I think, frankly, at any level, leadership is a hard job. It's even here at a community foundation, it can be tough because it's very political.
Well, you have to say yes and no a lot of times.
You do. And so I find that leadership at any level is tough, but it's so much more under the microscope and the political dichotomy that we see. And the dichotomy I worked in so different now than it was starting to become fractured, but I got out and thank God for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I'm no longer doing that. But it was, it really taught me a lot to be thankful to our legislators, whoever they are, frankly, whoever they are.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Because it is just a really tough go that if you're serving, it is service.
Well, and I say that now, I say that from both sides of the aisle. I've heard Democrat colleagues that have said, they don't go to the grocery anymore because they get yelled at. And that's
terrible.
not fair to them either.
Or their kids get threatened, or
it's not fair.
It's not fair.
No.
And so I think,
and they're not extremists.
Right.
I think that's the problem with both parties is the extremists.
It is a lot.
And it's wrong because especially in Ohio, we have very few extremists.
I agree. I definitely agree with you. And I think most people fall, somewhere in the let's come together and legislate. Let's lead. Let's be leaders.
Yeah.
They sent us here to lead, to come up with a solution. And that means putting our heads together. We were all voted. We all
want what's best for Ohio.
Right.
Right. And we're all in there fighting for our districts.
Amen.
Because that's what is important to us. Right. And I don't necessarily understand what's best in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. I understand people.
Yes.
But I don't live in Cleveland.
That's right. And it's way different than it is
yes,
down
it
here.
is.
I went to Kent State University and I served tables at a local restaurant up there called Parisons. And I will tell you, just me being a server up there versus a server down here.
Oh, yes,
completely. Night and day different.
Sure.
Tips were different. And so, and back then things were just so different before Trump was elected. But it really was true blue-red.
Right.
Now things are a lot more mixed up and the party has changed and transformed since those years. But it was and so I hear you on that. You don't know what's happening.
Now, I have to tell you, I have one woman that came to my committee that still haunts me. Mm-hmm. Somebody mentioned her the other day because I said she haunts me. And this woman does haunt me because I can't help her. Mm-hmm. And there's no service that can help her because she basically takes care of her whole family.
Wow.
And there's no service that can help her.
Wow.
Because she's a single woman. She doesn't have children. She's taking care of everybody else's children.
Wow.
And I'm just I still to this day, I look for things that, can I get that to her?
Or even a nonprofit connection. Sometimes that's when I say, this is where nonprofit is there to bridge that gap to me. Yeah. It's okay, this is something we have private funders giving. And it's a great way to give back. I find so many people give back into Cincinnati to Dayton region.
Right.
So charitable, and so I know in Hamilton, so charitable. And I just think that that's a really lovely way to bridge the gap.
It is.
People like this.
And we have looked, it's really mind boggling, but she's holding her own, but God, I pray for that woman every night.
And I'm sure those things you take home with you, and those are your 3 a.m. thoughts, as a leader.
Yeah.
So looking to the future and, what are things that you want to get done, and where do you see yourself going with this right now with your position there and service?
Well, I want to do more. I'd like to hold on to that position. I would like to do it the next time around. We'll see. I have another election coming up. We have a primary in March.
I think good luck. If anything, hats off to you for putting your name in there. Well, taking the risk. You obviously received Legislator of the Year. That's huge.
Well, and really, the reason that I did for disabilities was because I really battled to get an upgrade in pay for the DSPs because they really, these people were getting a pittance. They couldn't have a family and work, which is insanity.
Right.
I'd like to see some childcare brought in somewhere. I think that's something that legislators do understand. A lot of people don't understand.
I'm sure they don't. I'm sure a lot of people don't understand.
But you can't work and pay for childcare right now. It's very difficult.
It is very difficult. It's extremely expensive.
We're battling about all sorts of issues that really aren't going to matter in the future. There are some in Ohio that really do matter. And kids and elders are a priority to me.
And frankly, as they should be. I think that's a duty of ours, right?
I do too. We're an aging state. We have to take care of these people.
And these communities are aging. So
yes.
So if there's a word of wisdom or something to leave our listeners with, or maybe just even advice that
don't get in politics.
No, well, something you think that pushes you, or like, what's that good advice? Like what keeps you going? You know, because this is a hard time to lead and be at the state house. So what do you think is that, like, what keeps you going? What's your sage advice? Faith. Yeah.
Faith. If I didn't have faith, I couldn't get up in the morning. That's really the truth. I went to a funeral today, and I think I'm a little morbid, but I was thinking,
and you're allowed to be, by the way.
Well,
yeah, you're allowed to be.
I was thinking actually that if I didn't have faith in my community and in my state and in my kids and in my God, I could not get out of bed. I'm one of those people. I sleep to escape. So,
and I run to escape.
Oh, you do? That says why you're in better shape.
Or exercise to escape. That's my escape. But, you know, I honestly, I just think, thank you. I just want to say thank you for your leadership. Sweet. And it's been such a joy having you on. It's our What Gives podcast with State Representative Sara Carruthers. Thank you.
Thank you for having me
on today.
Thank you.
Been wonderful.
It's been fun.
To learn more about how to expand your philanthropy, please reach out to the Northern Cincinnati Foundation. What Gives is produced and distributed by King Hightower Strategies.